Yo fam, it's me, Sasha Denbry, and welcome back to You Call That Targeting! My gosh, it has been a long time since we have talked about football, and it's time to get back to that garbage. I mean, I am looking forward to football so much, and so we got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. I just want to jump right into it, right? I'm here with my co-host, Mike Rochburns. We got Earl Maynard. He's on location. We're going to get him on the Zoom call here a little bit later. But, man, we got a lot to talk about. Mike, how have you been?
I've been good. I'm real excited that we got the show going back, and the fans seem to be pretty pumped about it. And, we're ready to talk college football. And you mentioned you want to talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, I thought we could throw in a little bit of NFL, picking the game of the week, along with our college football game of the week. And also, this time of year is my favorite time of year because we got football starting, and we got NASCAR playoffs. And so we figured, hey, let's get Earl. He loves NASCAR, like we do, and he's kind of a genius about NASCAR. So we're gonna talk. He's gonna give us the latest news and predictions and stuff for the races coming up, because there's 2 races left in the regular season, and then they go to the playoffs. So a lot to talk about in the world of sports, or at least the sports that I care about, because basketball's garbage, baseball's been hard to watch, and the Olympics, trash. So we're getting to the real sports, and let's jump right into it. I want to talk about the 12-team college football playoff. I think this is going to be so good for the sport. No more of that, oh, they didn't deserve to be in, or TCU shouldn't have been in as the 4 team, and even though they beat Michigan, they didn't belong to the national championship. And then we had the year where Cincinnati got in and got beat in the first round, and there's no more of that crap. Let's get that out, right? We're not gonna even, we're not gonna argue about that crap, because whoever ends up in the national championship now is 100% deserving to be there, because even if you get that first round bye, you still gotta win 2 games just to make it to the national championship. So it's not just win 1 game and you're in the big game. You have to face 2 good opponents before you can get into that national championship game, and that's with the bye. So the people that have to play, all the games. You have to win 4 games in a row to win the national championship. So crazy. It's going to be awesome. But I want you to clear some things up with people, because I really feel like there's people that still think it's the best 12 teams. So clear that up for everybody, Mike.
Yeah, it's not going to be who's ranked 1 through 12 at the end of the year. It's going to be the top 4 conference winners, championship winners, will get that first round bye. And then there's also going to be the group of 5. Those teams like Liberty, Boise State, whoever's ranked highest out of those teams and that win their conference will take that other spot, which will more than likely be the 12 seed. And then we'll pick the rest of the spots by who's the best teams left. So there can be an upset in a conference championship. Let's say, like 2 years ago, Kansas State beat TCU in the conference championship. Kansas State would have been one of those top 4 teams, even with 2 or 3 losses or whatever they had. So if there's an upset in a championship game, it's going to shake up the playoffs. And I think that's one thing that people are kind of forgetting, and that I'm real excited for, because the conference championship really matters more than ever right now.
Well said, Mike. I can't wait to the 12-team playoff. It's just going to be awesome. But moving on to our next subject I want to talk about. We're going into a college football season, Mike, with no Nick Saban as head coach of Alabama. This is crazy to me. And it is just, it's going to be so wild not seeing Nick Saban be the head coach. But I do want to talk about their new head coach, and I think he's going to have success, no doubt. I mean, Jalen Milroe's great quarterback. He's got, of course, bukus of talent around him. And heck, I could go out there and coach Alabama these next few years and have good teams and just walk into the playoffs, right? But how do you think he's going to feel, or can he even come close to feeling Nick Saban's shoes?
Yeah, he ain't going to fill his shoes anytime soon, but he is going to have success. I think the one question that I think is on everybody's mind, especially Alabama fans, is can he sustain the success like Nick Saban? Alabama has been a legit national championship contender since like 2009. You know what I mean? Like, you expected them to be there every year, or at least a shot every year. It was almost shocking when they didn't make the national championship, or when they didn't, make the playoff or whatever. So, yeah, I think it's, can he sustain the success? Because we've seen some programs go downhill lately. We've seen Clemson kind of, even though they got the same coach, they've kind of fallen apart a little bit. And can this new Alabama coach keep them on the rails and keep the success up at Alabama? I know the fans. I mean, heck, if he has 1 year where they lose 3 regular season games, the fans are going to be, I mean, they're spoiled. They are expecting to be in the running for the national championship every year. So I do not envy the guy at all. And but I hope things go well and we continue to see Alabama being one of those top teams.
Well, speaking of top teams, I want to go into my next segment here, and this segment's called The Real Deal, and who I think is the real deal coming into this season. We're also going to go every week and kind of evaluate who's the real deal at the moment. But right now, preseason, I'm going to start off with Georgia. Georgia's the real deal. Now that Nick Saban has retired, Kirby Smart's the best coach in college football, hands down. Don't even come at me with any of that Lincoln Riley crap. Or I can't even think of another. Dabo Swinney, he's lost his touch. James Franklin at Penn State, garbage. Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL. He's nothing but pure trash. Even though he just won a national championship, but it took him forever, and he lost games that he shouldn't have. He's garbage. But I've lost my train of thought just calling people trash. But yeah, Georgia's the real deal. 100%. And there's really only one other team that I feel 100% is the real deal going into this preseason, and that's the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They're going to be in it at the end. Now that there's a 12-team playoff, you can almost bank that Notre Dame's going to be there, and when they get their opportunity, they're going to show up and show out, and they're probably going to win the national championship this year.
I'm sorry. You caught me off guard with the national championship there. Notre Dame winning the national championship. That's pretty good.
Mike, I can get you off this show anytime I want. I can snap my garbage finger, and you can be gone, right? So I suggest that you chill out.
Hey, all right. But I mean, I'm just saying, I feel like a lot of fans would disagree with calling Notre Dame the real deal. But okay, let's move on to the next.
Yeah, let's move on.
Next subject.
Garbage. Next, since we're talking about the real deals, let's talk about the wannabes. And I think the wannabes, right, that think they're the real deal coming into this year, but they're going to end up being trash. Let's start out with the Michigan Wolverines. I mean, everybody's talking about how great their defense is and how, they got quarterbacks for days. So J.J. McCarthy being gone, no big deal. We'll just replace him. But you're replacing your head coach, even though I just said he was garbage. But, hey, he did win a national championship. And you replaced him with a nobody that hasn't proven anything. I don't even know his name. That's how garbage he is. Michigan is going to be one of those teams that, they're going to come in with a bunch of hype. It wouldn't shock me if they lose 4 games this year. They're just nothing but trash. Just like I said, wannabes. And the next wannabe I want to talk about is the Oklahoma Sooners. They're about to, I think Texas joining the SEC, I think they're going to hang with the SEC teams. I think they're legit talented. Quentin Ewers, great quarterback. They got great, Sarkisian, great play caller. and we've seen them. I mean, they beat Bama. We've seen them beat good teams. I think they're going to hang. They're not going to go undefeated in the SEC, but they're going to hang with a lot of these SEC teams. But you know who won't hang with them? Oklahoma Sooners. They are going to get smacked in the teeth joining the SEC. If they think they're going to be one of the top dogs, garbage. They're going to lose probably at least 5 games. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Bunch of wannabes. Nothing but pure trash. But let's move on to our next segment. And that's picking the only game worth picking in college football this week. So week 0 don't usually have a lot of good games, and they don't have a lot of good games. The only good game or decent game is Florida State versus Georgia Tech at Dublin, Ireland. And this is Saturday at 11 o'clock. Pretty much the only game worth watching. But we're gonna pick this game. Let's start with you, Mike.
I mean, to me, it's obvious, right? I mean, I think you got to pick Florida State. I mean, I know they lost a lot of talent. The last time we seen Florida State play a game, they got pummeled by Georgia in the bowl game. But I think Florida State's got enough talent. I think they got the coaching, and I think Georgia Tech's just still got a lot of rebuilding to do. And I'm going to pick Florida State. How about you, Earl? Let's bring you in.
Well, yeah, I'm here at Dublin, Ireland, and man alive, these people love to drink alcohol, and it's been wild here. And we're still a few days away from the game, and I mean, I'm with you, Mike. I think it's pretty obvious that Florida State just has more talent. When you compare them to Georgia Tech is just they're pretty far behind. They're still trying to get used to this new they used to run the triple option, and now they're a few years away from that, and they've had to revamp the whole team, and I just think that Georgia Tech is just lacking a little bit of talent, and maybe in the next few years Georgia Tech makes that step forward, but I think Florida State's going to handle this with ease.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you, Earl and Mike. I'm so sick of Florida State, and they're such garbage. And they want to blame that we didn't make the playoff because our quarterback got hurt. And if our quarterback wouldn't have got hurt, we would beat anybody because we're the greatest thing that's ever happened to college football. Well, you know what, Florida State, you can suck my nipples. Because you're trash. Georgia Tech's going to beat you in Ireland. You're going to have to fly back on that plane, boo-hooing your tears because you're nothing but garbage. You just got to sit there and wither in your sorrows. Because Georgia Tech is going to hand it to you. They're ready to play. Florida State don't even know which way's left and which way's right after Georgia bent them over and spanked them. So I think that bad of a loss is going to carry over into this season, and Georgia Tech is going to say, hey, Georgia's not the only team from Georgia that's going to beat the britches off of you. So I'm going with Georgia Tech.
Wow, picking the upset early. Jeez, I mean, hey, I applaud you, but I think you're wrong there.
The only thing wrong is that you're my co-host, because you're trash. Earl, what do you got on the NASCAR news?
Well, we know that Austin Dillon 2 weeks ago wrecked Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin in the last corner at Richmond to get that win to get into the playoffs. NASCAR didn't like it. They took his playoff eligibility away and said, you know what? We like aggressive driving, but what you did cross the line, we're taking your playoff spot away. So Austin Dillon's going to come out firing on all cylinders because he wants to go out there and get that win, and he's won at Daytona before. So, and RCR, his team has gotten better over the last few weeks. They've been pretty much garbage the whole year, but they've actually shown some speed lately. He's someone to keep your eye on. But I mean, Daytona, anybody can win that race. There's people fighting for those last few playoff spots with 2 races left. It is crazy. I'm going to have to go with Chris Buescher. This is a guy who won this race last year. He's been kind of flirting with a win. He's sitting right on that bubble. He needs to really lock himself in. If he can't get the win, I think he still has a big point stay, enough to where he pretty much locks himself in. These next two tracks really shape up good for Chris Buescher, but it's hard not to go also with Tyler Reddick. He's been as hot as a to-go plate from New China. And it just seems like all he does is finish in the top five, and then he won this past week at Michigan. So the 45 car's been great, but I got to go with Chris Buescher to get the job done at Daytona.
I think that's a pretty solid pick there. I think him or Brad Keselowski, his teammate, has a good shot to finish well at Daytona. My pick's gonna be Denny Hamlin. He's kind of had some. Should have had the win at Richmond, got wrecked by Austin Dillon. He was running well at Michigan when he got spun out, I say got spun out. He spun out himself, really, but I think he's just kind of due for a win. And, he's won at Daytona a few times before. So my pick is Denny Hamlin in the 11 car. What about you, Mike?
I'm going to go left field here, and I'm going to pick Kyle Busch to win this race. I know he's had a terrible year, but my goodness, the guy has won at least one race for 19 years in a row. He's a veteran. He knows he's got to get the job done. Like y'all mentioned before, his team, RCR, has been running faster lately. I'm picking Kyle Busch to pull the upset at Daytona and find his way into the playoff.
Yeah, that would be my gosh, that would be a huge upset. But Mike, we also want to talk NFL on this podcast, and we want to pick the game of the week. We're going to let you do the NFL part. So, what is going to be our game of the week once the NFL gets rolling?
Oh, well, first I want to start with a little bit of NFL news. Today, Bo Nix was named the starter for the Denver Broncos. He's looked spectacular in preseason. There's been a few other rookie quarterbacks look good. Caleb Williams to the Bears has looked good. Jaden Daniels to Washington has looked good. But man, Bo Nix is impressing a lot of people. I know we used to make fun of him on this podcast and called him Bo Picks. But man, the kid, he's looking good. He's got a quick release. He seems to really understand the game early. And I know it's preseason and he's going up against, maybe some teams just being very basic and not showing a lot of their stuff on defense. But he looks like he's got it all figured out. And I think he's going to have a great rookie year if he stays healthy. But the game of the week is going to be on September 5th. That's a Thursday night, and it is the Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs. What a matchup early on. We get to see Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead Stadium. It's going to be wild. And this Baltimore team, to see Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry on the same offense is going to be. They had the potential to be elite, and that's going to be a great test for them right off the bat against the Chiefs. So, we'll wait till the next week's podcast to pick that game. But yeah, that's probably going to be the game of the week.
All right, so we're about to wrap up the show. Let's get to questions. We got two questions here to answer, and then we'll wrap it up. So, first question comes from Sweaty Butt Crack 88. He says, "Do you think the NIL has absolutely ruined college?" At first, I hated it. I really did. I hated it. I hated transfer portal. I wanted old school college football back. But I have kind of come to terms that this is where we live. This is where we live at in college football now. And, man, I think the kids deserve to make money. I think they're going to have to rein in some of these NIL deals, and these kids, they showed like Texas football players all showing up in like Lamborghinis and stuff. Like they're going to have to like rein it back. And I also think they need some type of contracts. Like, hey, if we pay you this certain amount of money, like you need to stay at this college because we don't want you transferring like the next year just because we had a bad year. Like I hope they get to a point where they can kind of lock in these players at certain schools. But like having the NIL thing happen, we got a college football video game back because of that. Like we went 10 years without a college football game, and now the NIL has came out, and we can use their name, image, and likeness in a video game. We actually got a college football game, and I've been playing it, and it's been a blast. So I don't really hate the fact that players are making money. They just need to control it a little better. And also, kind of to go in with that, the transfer portal, I hated it. I hated the fact that players could just up and leave, but at the same time, I think it's kind of exciting. Like every year, there's basically free agency, like in the NFL, and you get to go after these guys and give them offers, to come to your team, and it's always going to balance itself out. There's always going to be those good players at small schools that kind of perform better than what the school that they're at, and then they'll, let's say somebody goes to Tulane, right? And is play they were recruited as a 3-star. Now they're playing like a 5-star player, and then they transfer to Ohio State. Well, Tulane's also going to get that 1-star player that is at his school, UL Monroe, that's playing like a 3-star, and that's playing better than the team that he's on. And so it's always going to balance itself out. So I don't necessarily hate the transfer portal anymore. I think it's unique because if your team's bad this year, all it takes is a few guys from the transfer portal that your coach can land, and then boom, your team's a contender the next year. It can also hurt you. I think it's going to hurt Washington terribly. I think Washington went from playing for a national championship last year to they're going to probably be struggling to make a bowl game. But I think the NIL and transfer portal, it is, I don't know. It's got its pros and cons, but it's not the worst thing, and I'm getting used to it, if that answers your question. So the next question and last question is, will the new Bama head coach actually take players out of the game if they consistently suck cheeks? Or will he leave them in like Saban did? Also, Vols for the Natty this year. This is going to be our year. And this is Gideon Grissendine Gutbuster the third. What a name. Hold on, let me repeat that. Gideon Grissendine Gutbuster the third. And he has in a parentheses, but not Trey. So he don't want to be called Trey. But Triple G is what I'm going to call him. So let me answer that first question. I don't know what you're talking about. Saban leaving players in that's consistently sucking cheeks. I don't know who you're talking about. I mean, I've heard Alabama fans complain about like when he should have put in Tua, and when Jalen was struggling. But my goodness, it worked out for him. I mean, the way he did it. You can't question anything Nick Saban did. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. He's the best coach Alabama will probably ever see in their whole existence. So I wouldn't question anything that Nick Saban did. And you said the Vols for the Natty this year. I mean, I think they got a chance to make the playoff because we've added more teams. I think Tennessee's pretty good, but the national championship, you're full of garbage. That's just not going to happen. So, but I do appreciate the question, and thank you guys for listening. It's been great. It's been great to be back. Maybe the next episodes will be a little shorter. We're trying to get back into the groove of things. But I appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next week.